Well, hello there. Welcome back to our Shibuya Scramble 428 playthrough. I'm here with Yoshi,
What's up, folks?
and do you remember what happened last time?
Um, Achi yelled at his dad a lot for being a bad person, and Stanley was there and Kanan was there, and both of the um, Osawa girls were there, and um, someone's story ended.
Yeah, it was Osawa. He's
Oh,
gone,
yeah, he was like, I'm gonna go to the lab, I'm gonna listen to my little girl.
and he rode off into the sunset.
Yeah, that was mostly it. How did I do?
I think he did pretty good. Oh yeah, they talked to Alphard on the computer,
Oh yeah.
and he's like, um, "I bet you're wondering why I gathered you together, or something like that."
Yeah, and they were like, "No, we know you're like a criminal mastermind and stuff." And it was like, "You got me."
You sure got me. Cool. Um, but yeah, we can very easily do like a summary. So, when you start, it looks like Achi is at a keep out. And so we only got two options. This feels a little slow. Is like things moving slow for you? It might be from the update. I updated my laptop to Windows 11 just because
He
it told me
finally
to.
got Windows Vista, and we're
Yeah,
so excited
so
for
things
him.
are slowed down.
It looks just a little slow, yeah.
Oh, it's fine. This is a visual novel, so it doesn't matter. Although there might be a video that pops up. Anyways, do you want Kano or Minorikawa? You gonna eat your vegetables or
Nah,
not eat
no
your
vegetables tonight.
Alright, we're
Let's
starting
go with
with
the
Mino.
homie.
Alright, this is what happened last time.
Oh yeah, we
Um,
got that knee thing.
Alright, hold on. He gets a call from Toyama, tells him about the major scoop he's landed. They decide to meet in private, but Minorikawa wants. Uh, this Kariyama guy shows up and is like, "Time's a ticking," and they say, "Well, you know what? You can just hang out with us." And so they meet up at the cafe, and he's like, "Hey, boss, instead of running around with your kid, you should do some work, you know?" And he's like, "You know what? You're right." And then they run off to the hangout of the SOS for the final article.
Hang in there, Chucky. Just keep it together.
Minorikawa rushed to her side and offered her a hand. "Oh, I'm Karayama." What was the voice I gave him? It was like kind of British accent, wasn't it? "Surely it hardly matters at this point. You're not going to make it on time regardless," Karayama said coldly.
That was not a British accent. Just for the folks at home, if anyone's wondering if that was a British accent, the answer is no.
Yeah, I don't think I wrote British on his notes. Let me see now if I actually wrote notes about this guy. Da, da, da. Tut tut. Yep, I wrote no notes.
So the world is your oyster.
And in any case, if 4-star General Gossip doesn't get released, it's Mr. Toyama who's going to be in trouble, not you. I dare say the world would be better off with one third rate gossip rag less anyway. I'm also Chiaki. This one I do have a note.
Shut your mouth!
Chiaki snapped.
If the gossip doesn't come out, I am gonna be in trouble. An article I've written is supposed to be in next month's issue. It's a piece I've worked my very hardest on to the very end. A piece Mr. Mino saw fit to put in print. And so if that goes away, if all of that goes away, yeah, I'll be in trouble, alright? Haha. Ouch, my knee.
Chiaki's legs wobbled as she struggled to get back to her feet. Chiaki, Kariyama said, your zeal is a marvelous thing, worthy of admiration even. But when it comes to work, results are all that matters. I'm sad to have to put it that way, but I must be honest. It's just common decency.
Ooh, he said that before.
Yeah. How many, what number is that in the times he said
That's
it?
the fifth time he said it?
Might be fifth. Did he say it since the tip?
No, but I think they said there's 3 times he said it before that. So.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Kariyama glanced at his pocket watch. You have 57 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. At this rate, you won't even make it to the interview venue before your time's up. Frankie, I don't think even a further extension of your deadline would make any difference in the end. Frankie.
Damn it!
Minorikawa ground his teeth. He wondered if he should just leave Chiaki here and go interview SOS by himself. He could expand the article on SOS, then work a small part of Chiaki's interview piece in to at least fill the layout. Right now, the single most important thing was getting the magazine out the door for Toyama's sake. But if he did cut most of Chiaki's copy, after all she'd done, he might wind up totally killing her passion for being a writer.
Have to stop waffling. Professionals don't let their personal feelings dictate their decisions. I can help Chiaki work through her emotional struggles later. Chiaki, that's enough.
The young woman got to her feet, staggering as she began to climb the stairs.
I'm not giving up.
She said under her breath.
I can't give up now. Haha.
Though obviously in pain, she struggled to keep her legs moving.
Damn, I can't do it. Look how hard she's fighting to stay in the game. I can't tell her I don't need her article now.
Releasing the next issue of the Gossip wasn't just going to save Toyama. It would save Chiaki as well. Minorikawa couldn't abandon either one of them. Which left him with a hell of a dilemma. He needed to make a decision. If he didn't stop wavering soon, they'd be out of time. But try as he might, he couldn't come up with a plan. Then he heard a familiar voice from behind him. Who do you think it is?
If I had to, like, I'm not, okay, so I'm not 100%. If I had to guess, for my money, if I had to say, I would say it's probably Shizuo. It's just like, if you're wondering what path to take, allow my taxi to be your guide.
I think we know who this is actually, though. Based on this music.
It's a long, long man.
Those things are actually really good. Minorikawa spun around to see Kimizuka standing there. "Where to, sir?" the driver asked. Despite his polite demeanor, his pride was obvious.
Mr. Kimizuka, I appreciate the thought, but with this traffic...
Traffic? I see nothing of the sort.
A little too sensual. I know that's what you're going for, but I think you overshot it. A bit.
My bad.
Okay, sure, but
Minorikawa was well aware of Kimizuka's capabilities, but the prospect of cutting through the chaos that currently filled the streets was more than a little daunting. When you know this town as well as I do, there's nowhere you can't go.
all right. What other choice do I have? Guess I've got to trust you. This will be my last request of the day.
Minorikawa pointed down the street. Ooh. We can go to Bride, which is the what is it? Is it the girls fighting? There's Inferno. I think I don't remember what labyrinth is about. Or we can just ask him, do you have any place in mind?
Let's do that. Do you have any place in mind?
Kimizuka's eyes went wide. Do I have a glimpse into a young lady's mind? He asked.
Look, I'm sorry, but we're in a big hurry here. Don't make me have to repeat myself.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Very well. Then here goes. Kimizuka cleared his throat and adopted a look of artistic intensity. I want to say it, but I can't say it. I thought today might be the day, but when our eyes met, it felt so cold. I'm wandering alone in the labyrinth of love. Why can't I just share how I feel? Look back my way. No, don't look back. If I do ever share my feelings, what happens to us then? That's a river we won't be able to uncross. Is it still him?
I think so.
I want to wreck things, but I don't really want to wreck them. I'm sorry for pretending to be so upset. I want to get some distance, but I can't get that distance. I can't do this over the phone. I want to forget, but I can't forget. That day, about half a year ago. It was such a trivial thing, and yet I treasure it even now.
What the hell is this? This is not what I signed up
say
for.
it, but I can't say it. I wonder if these are the lyrics to a song. Even if I did, even if I could. Like a shell caught in the pounding surf, caught and tumbled back and forth. More than friends, but not quite lovers. Not quite lovers, but more than friends.
My apologies, Mr. Kimizuka. I should have repeated myself. Into Inferno in Ura Harajuku, if you would.
Very well, sir. As soon as Minorikawa and the others had climbed into the cab, Kimizuka tore off through Shibuya's network of narrow side streets. The passengers in the back seat jostled roughly back and forth to the sound of screeching tires. This is all... what was... Hold on. I almost did a southern accent for this guy. Hold on, I got it. Ooh. I'm Kariyama. Blah, blah, blah. This is altogether far too excessive, Kariyama murmured, wincing as his head bounced repeatedly against the window. To think we allow such inconsiderate driving here in this country. Chiaki, meanwhile, had opened her laptop and was somehow working furiously to finish her copy. The sound of her fingers clicking across the keys echoed within the vehicle.
How's it going, Chiaki?
Minorikawa asked.
Just a little more.
Her eyes were glued to her monitor, her face all seriousness. Kimizuka glanced over at Minorikawa. If I may ask, sir, what business do you have at this bar?
That's a little interview. I hear a local gang called SOS uses the place as their big hangout.
You're interviewing SOS? Sir, I feel it might be best not to get too involved with that lot. There was something about the driver's warning that seemed a little off.
Your taxi driver connections tell you what SOS is up to?
Minorikawa asked. Originally, they were something of a vigilante corps, in the name of keeping the neighborhood clean and safe. But lately I hear nothing but bad things about them. Those loan sharks had said something very similar. Minorikawa reminded himself that he'd better be on his guard. Kariyama chimed in. And just how do you plan to go about interviewing a gang like this?
Nothing for you to worry about. I have a plan.
Oh ho. And just what exactly is this plan?
It's a secret.
Kariyama gave him a derisive grin. Clearly he wasn't impressed. Minorikawa turned to look at Chiaki. She appeared too engrossed in her copy to even hear the conversation. I realize this is for work, Kimizuka said worriedly. But do you really need to take such risks?
Yes, I do.
Minorikawa thought back to that look on Toyama's face. That look when he'd finally regained his confidence. He couldn't let Heaven Publishing go under. Toyama provided the canvas on which Minorikawa shared his art with the world. Thinking about it now, Minorikawa realized he'd always been chasing Toyama's shadow. Though it was galling to admit the man had been the ideal, Minorikawa strove to live up to. That was why he'd hated seeing Toyama reduced to such a pathetic state. He wanted Toyama to remain indomitable, to keep busting down any and all obstacles in his own peculiar way. Still, Minorikawa wasn't about to voice these feelings out loud. He felt more than a little embarrassed to be taking it all so personally.
You take on a job, you give it 100% every time. That's what makes you professional.
He said.
Wouldn't you agree?
I do indeed, Kariyama chimed in. But you'll have to demonstrate that 100% in the limited time you have left. Which, by the way, is 51 minutes and 30 seconds. And I will not budge in the slightest on that submission deadline. Please do keep that in mind. The man took another look at his watch.
Got half a mind to break that thing.
Minorikawa told him. Breaking my watch will not stop time. Minorikawa shot him a furious glance, but Kariyama's composure was unwavering. I almost said exposure there.
You did. Judging by the way you've been reading these lines, I mean, Jesus, this isn't a porn novel.
The guy was unflappable, and the only way Minorikawa was going to be able to put him in his place was to meet his damn deadline. Easier said than done, though. He'd want to use 30 of the 51 minutes he still had to write his article. That only left him 20 or so to get the material. Kimizuka suddenly slammed on the brakes, and the cab skidded to a halt. Minorikawa stared through the windshield in shock and saw a smallish, boxy minivan weaving erratically along the road.
Whoa, look out. That thing's headed our way.
Don't worry, sir, the driver replied. Just leave this to me. Keeping his cool, Kimizuka dexterously steered them clear of the oncoming vehicle. As the minivan sped past, an eerily cold breeze wafted over the taxi. The vehicle is being driven by members of the Wandering Angels theater troupe. They are on their way to return the dry ice machine they used in their performance to Endo Electronics. The machine is malfunctioning, continually spitting out white plumes of carbon dioxide. The troop members inside the van are beginning to suffer from oxygen deprivation and are driving around Shibuya in a daze. Will they be able to make it to Endo Electronics in the end?
Will they realize that they can just open the windows? What the heck was that?
Minorikawa asked. I'm not sure, Kimitsuka said, but let's hurry on our way. Nimbly manipulating the gear stick, he stomped on the gas once more.
Ooh, he's driving Manny?
Sounds
Cool.
like it. Here we are, sir. They'd pulled up outside of a dilapidated old pool hall.
You're a lifesaver.
Minorikawa clapped a hand on Kimitsuka's shoulder. Just be sure to be careful, sir. Minorikawa nodded.
Huh? What?
Chucky asked, looking up.
What are we being careful about?
Minorikawa said.
You just wait here in the car. You still got that copy to finish up, yeah?
Well, yes. Alright then.
Chucky frowned but resumed her typing.
You wait here too.
Minorikawa said to Katayama. But of course, that goes without saying. Incidentally, you have 49 minutes and 6 seconds remaining. Minorikawa did some quick mental math. With the half hour he'd already set aside, that left him 19 minutes. However dangerous SOS might be, he couldn't afford to hesitate for even a single second. Bracing himself, he stepped out of the taxi and headed for the pool hall.
You.
Minorikawa took a deep breath as he approached the grimy door.
Here goes.
He drew his leg back and gave the door a hearty kick. The mob of young men inside the bar turned as one at the sound of the door crashing open.
It's just random folks, or do we already know these folks?
Looks like most of these are random folks at the moment.
Alright. I'll be this guy. Who the hell are you?
Although I think we gave SOS like Australian accents. Didn't we?
Alright. Who the hell are you?
Several of them started toward him belligerently.
Just calm down and hear me out.
He said.
I've come to interview you. Interview us? What the hell for?
These were hot-headed These were hot-headed punks, all right. They seemed to be itching for a confrontation. I just remembered there's a pair of SOS guys that we voiced as Shaggy and Scooby. So hopefully they show up again. Minorikawa felt like a punch might come flying his way at any moment. Then another voice called out from further back. This one might be me. Yeah. I voiced, maybe it's this guy. Hold up, guys. Yeah, Susumu is, the guy I voiced. And I lost the Australian accent when I was voicing him. It was a young man seated in the far back corner of the bar. His air of authority marked him as the gang's leader.
Must be Susumu then.
Minorikawa thought. When you say interview, do you mean for TV? For the telly? Or like a magazine? A Maggie? Mind telling us who you are?
I don't think they can see it. The name is Minorikawa. I'm a freelance journalist. I'm doing a magazine piece about young people in Shibuya. All I'm asking is just for you guys to answer a few questions.
Oh,
Let's find out what answer means.
here's the answer to the science quiz from last time. It's methane. So you were right. Methane has been tapped
Yeah.
as a new potential new energy source to replace fossil fuels for atomic power. But there are concerns about its tendency to exacerbate the global warming process. It is extremely flammable, and methane produced by food waste has been known to cause garbage trucks to catch fire. Wow. Huh. Susumu sounded less than enthused.
There's 5 minutes.
Minorikawa said.
What do you say?
Nah. I'm not in the best of moods right now. Go on, get out of here,
Right.
Minorikawa thought.
He's going to make things difficult.
But he hadn't expected these troublemakers to just up and accept an offer to appear in print. Now is when the real battle would begin.
I'll have to write my piece without your help then.
Susumu took the bait and shot him a look. Right about what, exactly?
Your little warehouse raids.
Warehouse raids? Susumu raised an eyebrow. What are you talking about?
Really now? You're going to tell me you don't know your boys are dealing in stolen goods?
SOS doesn't steal, man. You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Oh yeah? Why don't you ask those two over there?
I think that's Shaggy and Scooby. He'd spotted the two fellows he'd seen arguing earlier at the scene of the explosion. Now he pointed them out. Their faces betrayed their alarm. Susumu glared at them. Is this true? They averted their eyes and said, Nothing. Aw, man. I asked you a question. Have you been stealing stuff? After a long moment of surly hesitation, both young men nodded. You idiots! Susumu marched up to the two and without warning decked them both. How dare you sully the SOS name? As the two gang members cowered, he continued to punch them repeatedly.
Okay, enough with the beatdown.
Minorikawa stepped up to intervene.
Let's get down to business here. I won't reveal anything about the warehouse raids. In exchange, you give me my interview. How's that? Not a bad deal, I'd say.
But Susumu ignored him, continuing his pummeling of the pair.
Whoa, hey. Nobody's gonna play nice with the guy who flies up the handle and beats on people, you know?
What? What did you just say?
Well, look at yourself. You're clearly not the cream of the crop here, kid.
At that, Susumu's fist finally fell still. The rowdy bar went completely silent. Say that one more time. I dare you. I'll put your ass in the ground. The gang leader's eyes were red with rage. Minorikawa snorted, unafraid.
That's the exact sort of line I expect from a total wuss who's all bark and no bite.
Shut your damn mouth. Get the hell out of here.
Oh, this is hilarious. SOS's top dog is such a yappy little puppy.
Susumu snarled like an animal. You son of a bitch. I am going to beat your ass.
Mr. Mino, I'm all finished.
An ebullient voice resounded suddenly through the bar.
Ooh, that means like bubbles.
Yeah, cheerful and full of energy. Originally, the term indicated a state of bubbling or boiling, so it's effectively a fancy way of describing someone as bubbly.
Jockey,
Minorikawa looked and saw that both she and Kariyama had appeared in the doorway.
I finished my copy. Could you please look it over for me?
She thrust out her laptop proudly. Susumu stared in bewilderment. Who the hell are you?
Oh, I was under the impression USOS folks were, being interviewed.
Chiaki broke off, haltingly. Yeah, you're right about that. One by one, gang members started to close in around her.
Well, it's just, you look like you're really angry is all.
Oh, do me now. That's because we are pretty damn angry. Good grief, Kariyama groaned. It would seem that getting your interview is quite impossible. By the way, you only have another...
You shut up.
Minorikawa snapped as Kariyama peered at his watch.
Just leave this to me. You two hurry up and get out of here.
No way!
Chiaki said.
What? Why not?
Because I want you to read my copy, Mr. Mino. Uh-huh.
She looked him right in the eye. Alright, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, let's just read the copy.
Okay. He didn't have much of a choice. He'd postponed the interview to read over Chiaki's copy.
All right,
He said.
let me see your laptop.
He held out his hand and started to make his way over to her. Oh, he said whoa.
Oh,
Before he could reach her, though, the SOS punks had Chiaki and Kariyama surrounded. Maybe these are the gangs. You can do these. I don't think Susumu's in that crowd.
Ooh, what's this? Something important?
One of the gang members reached out to grab Chiaki's computer.
knock it off! Don't touch that! Uh-huh.
She struggled to resist.
Leave the girl alone, you scumbags.
Minorikawa barked. The young men in the bar stopped and turned. Susumu was quick to respond. Screw you, man. Who are you calling scumbags here?
Any guy who raises a hand to a lady is a scumbag. If you're looking for a fight, you can fight me. Just get your hands off the girl.
Minorikawa did his best to look unafraid as a couple dozen vicious gazes now turned back on him. Bring it on, Susumu said. Hey, someone go stand lookout out front. He snapped his fingers sharply. Get him. At the signal, Susumu's men quickly closed in on Minorikawa. It was like being caught up in a tsunami. He took a hard punch to the face and his vision went blurry. Before he could react, he was hit again, twice, thrice with punches and kicks. The moment his first assailant paused, another joined the assault. 4 blows, 5 blows, 6. Minorikawa lost count somewhere around 30. A metallic taste filled his mouth, and he could feel his consciousness fading. All the strength was being battered from his body. He couldn't even tell if he was standing on his feet or lying on his back. Then finally, he felt himself crumple to the floor. Even then, the beating did not let up. As he writhed helplessly, the young men kicked him in the gut over and over.
Stop it!
He heard Chiaki shriek.
You're going to kill him! Uh-huh.
Welp. Eventually, Minorikawa forced himself to go limp. Finally, the kicking stopped.
Oh, crap.
One of the thugs muttered, sounding panicky.
Did we take this a bit too far?
Mr. Mino!
Chiaki rushed to Minorikawa's side, sobbing.
Please,
She cried out.
answer me. You gotta read my copy.
He held out his breath and said nothing. Or he held his breath and said nothing.
Mr. Mino!
Tears streaked down her cheeks. She shook him desperately.
Don't worry.
He gasped out at last, holding up a hand to stave her off. She let out a yelp of surprise, staring at his battered face. He could feel blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He turned his grisly visage on the gang members as he painfully rose to his feet.
Ha 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 ha!
Abruptly, Minorikawa broke into peals of mocking laughter.
Mr. Mino?
Chiaki stared at him, aghast.
Ah ha ha ha!
He only laughed the harder. This is probably Katayama. It seems he took a few too many blows to the head. The poor thing. Katayama averted his eyes, unable to watch.
Wah ha 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 ha!
Minorikawa shot out an accusing finger out at the crowd.
Looks like I win this round.
What? Susumu blinked, dumbstruck.
Don't you get it?
Minorikawa said thickly around his bruised tongue.
What am I saying? You're a bunch of idiots. Now then, if you'll pardon me.
Oh, I get it. Minorikawa was halfway to the exit when Katayama's exclamation rang out. You were planning all along to let these guys beat you up, huh? Minorikawa jerked to a halt, his shoulders trembling. You knew they'd turn down the interview. And so by letting yourself get beat up, you'd have something to put in an article, yeah? It's a bit bogus, maybe, but I guess it's one way to get material to fill your pages. Minorikawa broke out into a cold sweat.
Shut up, you idiot.
But Katayama continued with his oh-so-brilliant analysis. You sure pulled a fast one on this gang here. I wonder what sort of headline your piece should have. The twilight of Shibuya's legendary street crew, former vigilante squad, now mere gang of common thugs. Something like that, maybe? Susumu stared daggers at Minorikawa. Go on. I dare you to write that up. Then we really will put your ass in the ground. He moved to block the path to the door, clutching a broken beer bottle in one hand.
You moron!
Minorikawa bellowed at Katayama.
I was this close to pulling it off.
Ah, well, that's a shame, isn't it? Katayama replied. Minorikawa rolled his eyes.
Hey, you think?
Susumu slowly advanced on them, beer bottle at the ready. Incidentally, Katayama said, you have 40 minutes and 7 seconds left. Good luck. Minorikawa hung his head. Was everything futile at this point? Futile, meaning hopeless, pointless, ineffectual. Not to be confused with feudal, which refers to the socio-political system of the Middle Ages involving lords and vassals and fiefdoms. That's a good tip.
And had its own very robust feudal system. Surprised they didn't reference that.
Maybe in the Middle Ages, they're talking about Middle Age Japan, where they had their own feudal system. Because,
didn't
you know,
call
the
it-
Middle Ages wasn't just in Europe, right?
No, Japan had, yeah, it had Middle Ages. But they didn't call it fiefs and lords. It's they had like samurais.
Yeah, that's true. It's probably
I did
a
report on that.
translation thing.
Yeah. Gotta make it appeal to a Western audience.
Yeah, us Westerners over here. Oh, alright, who do you think this is?
Shizuo? She's like, all right, cool your jets. I'd say that's quite enough.
Oh. It's actually this guy. I should have read it. Susumu stopped and spun around. Kimizuka had entered the bar. The taxi driver stared out sternly from behind his sunglasses. All the young men in the bar fell silent. What about the young woman? Not just the young men, but the women and children too. Minorikawa and his companions exchanged glances. Oh man, you... Suzumu's face twisted up in awkward embarrassment. Kimizuka's tone was light and playful, but intimidating nevertheless. Whoa, hey now. That's no way to address your teacher.
Teacher?
Minorikawa blurted in disbelief. Kimizuka nodded. Yeah, until last year I used to be a teacher. But I got into a bit of a dispute with my school, so I moved on. These guys in here are all former students of mine. Sorry that there's such a bunch of good-for-nothings.
Wow,
Shucky said.
I'd have never guessed.
I thought, since I wasn't their teacher anymore, it wasn't my place to butt in. But I couldn't sit idly by and let one of my customers take a beating. Kimizuka turned back to Susumu. This guy totally played you, every last one of you. Susumu bit his lip in frustration. Still, it's hard to imagine anyone would want to take a beating from this many guys all at once. So it's hardly your fault for falling for it. Kimizuka had switched gears from taxi driver to street smart mentor. You guys lost this one, he said, and for that, you need to give him his interview. Why does he still talk like that to these kids? No way.
Oh, it's a little weird if you ask me.
Susumu looked disgusted. Look here, kid, Kimizuka said. Let yourself save some face and help the man out. And maybe you won't come off as a bunch of total idiots in this article. He flashed an amicable grin. Well, when you put it that way, fine, all right. Susumu blew out his breath in resignation. Susumu, you can't just let yourself cave like that. Oh no, that's the wrong guy.
Yeah, I
This guy.
didn't think of that.
The remark had come from a particularly nasty-looking young fellow who slouched on the bar sofa. Minorikawa recognized him. The kid he'd encountered earlier that afternoon, wandering around with a wooden cudgel. You shut up, Kiryu, Susumu said. Do I have a note? I know you voice him. I don't know, I just have Aussie. So he's got an Australian accent too.
Oh, it's just not Shaggy?
No.
Okay. So what? You're just gonna let SOS make a mockery of itself?
Kiryu demanded. The gang leader let out an annoyed growl, but said nothing.
And you still think you've got what it takes to run Shibuya?
Shut up! I've already said I'll do it! Kiryu sneered sullenly at Susumu's outburst.
Mr. Mino.
Minorikawa was just letting out a sigh of relief at being able to get his interview when Chiaki scurried back up to him.
Please, can you read my copy now?
Her face showed a strange mixture of confidence and unease.
All right,
He said resignedly.
let me see it.
The proofing deadline was drawing steadily nearer. Still, if the piece wasn't good enough, he'd have to make her rewrite it again. He wasn't going to compromise on quality. Bracing himself, Minorikawa stared at the monitor. Chiaki swallowed hard, so anxious that it was audible. Gulp. Minorikawa gave the piece a fast once-over, then read it again more closely. When he was done, he closed his eyes, considering. Chiaki held her breath, waiting for its response.
Okay.
She looked back at him blankly for a long moment.
Really?
Really okay.
Is it really, really okay?
It really is really okay.
Minorikawa watched in surprise as she broke down in tears.
Oh, thank you so much.
Chucky bowed profusely. He gave her an affectionate little ruffle atop her head. She wiped at her face with her palms, scrubbing the tears away. Oh, this is probably still Chiaki. Is it? I think this is Chiaki.
Yeah, you're right.
So I guess I never really told you what sort of articles I want to write and all.
No, I don't think you have.
Well, I mean, I want to write socially conscious exposés like you do, Mr. Mino. And so, to hear you say that an article I wrote is okay, that makes me really, happy, I guess. Or maybe moved. Haha.
Her eyes were still bright with emotion.
Oh then. Really?
There was actually another writer who took inspiration from his work, and who strove to be like him. Minorikawa had never thought a day like this would come. It was a peculiar feeling. He'd always been the follower, chasing after interviews in order to be more like Toyama. It made him feel both bashful and proud that the skill and soul he'd honed might be passed on to the next generation. Let me see. Right. I should be off. Kimizuka gave Minorikawa a slight nod. Minorikawa returned the gesture, but more deeply.
You really have been a tremendous help today. I'm not sure where I'd even be right now if you hadn't been there for me.
Oh no, not at all. I was just driving a customer around to where he asked me to go.
Oh, that's right. I still owe you a fare.
Opening his wallet, Minorikawa saw he had only a 10,000 yen bill. Still, now was no time to be frugal.
Keep the change.
He said as he handed it over. But even as he said it, Kimizuka was already handing him some money back. Here, I insist. The driver had already counted out the exact change in advance.
You really are a pro, huh?
Minorikawa took the money and stuffed it into his pocket. We'll meet again, somewhere out there on the streets of Shibuya. Kimizuka pointed his index finger at Minorikawa's face. Minorikawa responded in kind. Just two guys standing there pointing at each other's faces. After that, the interview with SOS went off without a hitch. Now that the tension was diffused, these were just a bunch of ordinary young guys. The juxtaposition of their appearance and their behavior would make for an interesting piece. So, So, about what you said earlier, Susumu said once Minorikawa had finished his questioning. About how I'm not the cream of the crop.
Oh yeah, that. I just said it to get you worked up. Don't worry about it.
Well,
You are pretty fucking dumb though.
let me just ask you what you really think then. How do you think I could be a better leader?
I don't know. I'm not really the sort of guy that wants to stand at the top, you know? But I guess I can tell you two things that'll make things go more smoothly with you and your buddies.
Susumu leaned in, listening intently.
Forgiveness. And also trust.
Minorikawa chewed over his own words. The events of the day replayed in the back of his mind. He'd forgiven Toyama for his faked suicide, and trusted that he'd regain his reporter's edge. He'd forgiven Chiaki for her bungled interviews, and trusted that she'd grow as a journalist. In the end, that's what it was that had helped him through. Forgiveness followed by trust. Susumu grumbled softly. Forgiveness and trust, huh? Doesn't sound so easy.
Gravitate towards someone who can handle things when they get tough.
With that, Minorikawa got to his feet.
Now we've got all the articles we need covered.
Maybe that was Chiaki who said that. Chiaki rushed over to his side.
Well, I guess we still need Mr. Toyama's piece.
I just got off the phone with my office, Kariyama said casually. It seems they've already received the data from him.
What? Guess he really can get the job done when he applies himself.
Minorikawa felt an inner surge of pride.
Now then.
He indicated Kariyama.
How much time do we have left?
30 minutes remaining, Kariyama replied, eyeing his watch.
30 minutes, huh? Looks like we might make it after all. Chucky, laptop!
Right.
With a beaming grin, Chiaki held out her computer. Minorikawa got ready to start typing, but then a young man barged into the bar.
Ooh, I mean Shizuo.
Oh, it's Achiendo.
Actually.
He's come to ask the members of SOS to help with the planned operation down at the Scramble. Oh, we can't jump to it, though.
Rip.
The newcomer hurried over to where Susumu was sitting and promptly prostrated himself on the floor. Whatever this was about, it looked like a big deal. Who was this kid? The gang's feelings looked decidedly mixed.
I need people to bring a guy down. I'm here to ask for your help. I know I have no right to ask you this. But please, I really need your help.
As Minorikawa listened to the young man's conversation with Susumu, he could feel his blood start pumping. It sounded like they were talking about the terrorist plot in which Shibuya had become embroiled.
Hey, Chucky,
He said quietly.
did you hear that just now?
I did. I'm not sure I follow all of it, but it definitely has the whiff of a major scoop.
Minorikawa shot her a daring grin.
What's the play here, Chucky?
We interview him, of course.
We only have 30 minutes left, right?
So we take 10 minutes for our conversation and use the remaining 20 to write up the piece. I'll help you out.
You learned good, kiddo.
Minorikawa ruffled Chiaki's hair again. They both blushed profusely, gripped by a surge of excitement. Why are you doing this? I can't make any sense of it whatsoever. Kariyama stood peering at them skeptically. You write of the piece you just did your interview for, you'll make your deadline. Why go out of your way to trouble yourself further?
No trouble.
Minorikawa said.
I'm just doing what a professional does. That's all.
Katayama let out a solemn sigh. Good grief. He looked at his pocket watch again, then snapped it shut. Well, if you aren't concerned about the time, then do as you like, I suppose. I'll admit you've made me quite curious to read this magazine you're putting together. Minorikawa and Chiaki rolled their eyes as they turned away. Already they were making their way over to Susumu and his gang.
Is this Toyama?
I don't know. Maybe this is just
like him
Minorikawa's
remembering.
thoughts.
Oh.
I don't know.
Interviews aren't over until you have what you need. You refuse to let them be over. You spend every last second you have to do the best job you can. That's what being a professional journalist is all about.
Minorikawa cracked his knuckles and stepped between the two young men.
Sounds like you've got an interesting story. Mind letting me hear it too?
What do you think of that guitar solo? Oh,
And,
Man.
and it worked.
he's dead. He's donezo. End of his story, and...
And
Welp. I guess he's done for. So we've just got Kano and Achi. Guess we don't really need to return to Minorikawa unless we have to change the choice he's made. Oh, but it's about an hour, so I don't know if you want to start another one just yet.
yeah, it might be good. Might be a good point to stop with this week.
All right. So I'll ask the usual. You got any thoughts, impressions? Just those two things. No theories.
Um, Not really. I think that that was the best storyline. I think that Minorikawa's storyline was the best.
Out of all the finished ones, or out of all 5 so far?
Yeah, just out of all of them. I mean, I don't think Kano is gonna like overtake that title.
Yeah.
I mean, Achi's cool. I love Achi, but I don't know. I think that was the best one.
Yeah, he had the wildest ride, and his was probably the most loosely connected, I guess. Like at first, Tama was pretty like unconnected until it was revealed that she's actually Maria. But yeah. He didn't really do too much, make too many waves in the main story, from what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, he interacted with some of the characters. A lot of characters.
Yeah. Is there a character he didn't interact with? I don't know if did he bump into Kano?
Did?
Oh yeah, he did. At
When
the
they were going to
explosion.
bathroom and stuff?
Yeah, and then he listened to him while he was in the bathroom. Okay. Well, do you have any not related to the scramble thoughts? What have you been eating? I guess is what I should say. This is the what have you been eating segment. What did you talk about last time? Was it steak? It wasn't
No,
steak.
steak.
Was
It
it
was a
chicken?
steak. It was, it was rotisserie chicken and
Yeah,
the
rotisserie
fall of
chicken.
like the American rotisserie chicken chain. I don't really have much to add to that rant. I think that's can be comfortably relegated to just last week.
Well, as we're recording this, Thanksgiving is coming up, and I know you've got some Thanksgiving takes about turkey and how turkey
Yeah,
stinks.
let me share them. Turkey is not very good, and as evidence, pardon me, I would cite that you don't eat it when it's not Thanksgiving, and there's a reason for that. The reason is that it's not very good. You should always look askance at a food that you only eat on a special occasion. So, for example, if it's like Passover, and you're like, oh, it's Passover. This is great. We're going to eat bitter herbs. We're going to eat raw horseradish with no salt or vinegar or anything, just the freaking plant. And it's like, oh, that's really cool and all, but like, why do you never eat it on any other day? And it's like, well, because it sucks. Um, Generally, if you don't do something voluntarily, and this applies to other aspects of Thanksgiving too, like,
Like
your Uncle
stuffing.
Phil or whatever.
Oh,
No, I love stuffing's delicious. Honestly, I think stuffing. I wish stuffing were featured more outside of Thanksgiving because it's amazing. But
like Uncle Phil
like,
is overrated. Is that what you're
like how
saying?
come I never how like oh I can't wait it's Thanksgiving I'm gonna see my Uncle Phil and it's like well how come the other 364 days of the year you don't hang out with Uncle Phil? And if you think about it long enough, you'll come to the conclusion that it's because he sucks. If you actually liked your Uncle Phil, like you would hang out with him, in July or whatever. But you don't. You don't like your Uncle Phil. He's a dick, and that's why you only see him at Thanksgiving and maybe Christmas or Passover. Because he sucks. And the same is true of turkey. Why do I never eat turkey in July? Because turkey's not good. Why did Giant and Costco and Publix or whatever, why do they sell turkey for 59 cents a pound? I mean, the turkeys would be indignant, right, if they knew that we were selling them for like less than $1 a pound. When the likes of cows, are sold for 12, $15 a pound. Because turkey's not actually good. Why do you like you go to a lot of restaurants, right? Why do you never see roast turkey on the menu? Because it's not a good food. It's like no one actually wants to eat it. And so it's like this is like the eating holiday. It's the one day of the year that's just all about eating. And what do we eat? It's like a food that sucks too much to ever be served in a restaurant or be considered a trademark of any cuisine or like literally anything. It's just not good. So I would encourage you if you're doing Thanksgiving, um, eat something that's good. Eat some lamb, eat some goat, make a steak. That's what I like to do is cook a steak. Um, get Chinese, get pizza, make clams casino. I don't care, but yeah,
What if
turkey sucks.
what if because it's Thanksgiving, all these restaurants were putting turkey in their meals. So there's like turkey pizza. You got turkey in your Chinese food. Just for Thanksgiving. What if
But
everyone's
they're
doing
not.
that?
They're not, right? And there's a reason
No,
that
they're
they're
not.
not. It's because turkey is like really, really bad. It's a worse chicken.
What is your number one turkey substitute? Is it steak?
For me on Thanksgiving, I make a steak. What I actually like to do, because my mom likes to buy a rib roast, which is basically it's like a huge ribeye basically, and I like to slice. She lets me slice off like two 1 pound steaks, and she cooks the whatever's left in the oven. Which, by the way, I also don't like the oven. I feel about the oven the same way I feel about turkey, which is that it's like the worst way to make food. Like if you go to a restaurant, right?
Yeah.
There's not that many things that are made in an oven.
Yeah.
No one's like, oh, I'll have the oven baked filet mignon, or like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll have the oven baked spaghetti or whatever. It's like people want to taste like the pan, the griddle, whatever. The oven is for peasants.
What about
But
smoked? I think my in-laws have been like doing smoked turkey whenever,
that's a
like,
step up.
recently.
I do think that's a step up. You smoke your turkey, you deep fry your turkey. Um, it gets better,
But it's still
but it's
turkey.
still like you're trying to like make it better, and it's like the best thing you could do is just to make like regular food. I don't know.
You know, maybe we've had this topic come up before. We've done this scramble thing for a year now, right?
Were we doing it last Thanksgiving?
I
I
don't
don't think
know.
so.
Huh.
It's close. I think so. This is the 32nd or 33rd episode.
Yeah.
I think we've been doing it more than 60% of the time. So I would guess that this started sometime this year, perhaps in January or February.
I'll have to look into it. Yeah, we've been doing this quite a while. And we're finally almost done, then we can move on. We've been talking about moving on like for the past couple of episodes too.
Yeah.
Well, that's a
Let
good
us know in the comments below how you feel about turkey.
the animal and the food. The country's fine,
It's the same. Oh,
is it?
I didn't know you were talking about. I was gonna be like it's the same thing. The animal and the food. It's like the same. The country also is the thing.
Yeah.
My history teacher in 11th grade, I don't know if this is true, but he was super cool. His name was Mr. Besher. He said that the reason that the turkey is named turkey is because people in the Western world saw it and found it to be exotic. And they were like, oh, that's so exotic. I bet it comes from. And they tried to think of the most exotic place they knew of, and they were like, Turkey. They hadn't read Gulliver's Travels, so they were like, "Oh, what's the most exotic place in the world?" And they were like, "Turkey. That thing is so crazy. I bet it's from Turkey." And that's actually why they call it Turkey. I don't know if
Wow.
Mr. Rusher is telling the truth or not, but that's what he said.
It's like when Christopher Columbus went over and was like, "Wow, look at all these people, so exotic."
Yeah, don't say anything insensitive. By the way, this is a family podcast.
You're right. Well, I guess that's the episode.
I mean, you could have said Indian. I wasn't saying don't say Indian. I was saying like, don't go on like a problematic rant or something.
I wasn't. I was just following up on the thing, but you know, I was gonna say make him say like so exotic it looks like a chicken, but I, it's not funny anymore. Probably wasn't funny in the first place.
Laughing, so it's a good start.
Alright, I gotta click stop.
All right, see you, folks.
Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week. Next week? Will we?
I think so.
Next time at least. And whether that next time is next week or the week after, we'll see. Probably not the week after, huh? Thanksgiving is coming up. Yeah, we'll see. We'll
It's a
see.
Monday. I don't know. It's a Monday after this. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
See ya.